Hello everyone, coming to you again with another random video, and today I wanted to talk about certain things that I would like to say that would be movies that I would like to see more of. And I'm going to rephrase that because that came out a little strange, but basically what I want to talk about in this video is movies that I kind of would like to see more of, or that I would kind of like to be more presented up to the table in Hollywood in particular, and also with other movie companies in general. I think it would be nice to see more things dealing with these kinds of various topics, because I don't really see a lot of them. And when I do, sometimes it becomes sort of generic. And what I want to try to say through this video is that I want to try to hammer down the point that, yes, I know there's movies of these that do exist. It's just I don't think we focus on them so much now. And we don't focus on a certain kinds of things dealing within the particular genre, I think. So without further ado, let me kind of discuss ones that I think would be really worth taking into consideration, and what I think Hollywood could really do with them, because I think that they do hold this kind of weight that could be interesting. Because a lot of people say that Hollywood is running out of ideas, and I think it's safe to say that yes, I think that Hollywood is going to have its ups and downs, and I think it's kind of one of these down points where it is hard to make things new, because so many things have been done before. But what I want to suggest is certain things that I think should be just more made into, or should be more focused in on. Not saying that these things haven't been done before, but they're just things that I would like to see Hollywood maybe try to do more of. So, without further ado, let me get started. And first topic I kind of wanted to discuss was more superheroes. Yes, more superheroes. I know there's a lot of films that have been done that have been superheroes. Yes, I understand this. I understand X-Men, I understand Batman, I understand Spider-Man, and now with the Avengers, and with Iron Man, Thor, Captain America, I understand there is a variety of superhero movies. However, what Hollywood tends to do is that they tend to try to kind of sequel it, or make it lead up to something. And we've clearly seen this time and time again. We've seen it with how Batman kind of came about, because we saw, I believe it was Tim Burton's adaptation, sort of. And then now we see Christopher Nolan's adaptations of Batman. Same comic book hero. It's the same thing. It's just different takes. And then same with Spider-Man. You got, I believe, was it Sam Raimi? I can't remember. But basically, you had one director making the first three, and then you have, another director taking over and trying to reboot the entire sort of series. Because again, I think it is hinting for a sequel, at least with Spider-Man, from what I can tell. And that's the thing. And it's the same with X-Men too. Again, you probably do get introduced to some new characters with X-Men, but for the most part, the series has really focused in on characters that we've already seen, and basically on X-Men. And doesn't really go anywhere out of X-Men. And then we've seen the Avengers, which is basically we have each one who got a movie with Thor, Captain America, Iron Man, who got 2 movies, and you kind of see how that led up to the Avengers. And it's you see the pattern here. You see what I'm kind of saying. It's like that they build up into this sequel, or they try to take something that's already been done and sort of reboot it or readapt it. They really try to make things that have already been done. And I think the problem with that is it would just be nice if Hollywood just decided, okay, let's maybe focus on some other, comic book heroes, comic book villains. Let's try to bring in other characters. I think that's the thing, is that they try to drag a series, and they try to drag the same superheroes that we've seen time and time again. And I think it would just be nice, and I don't mind however many times they reboot Spider-Man or they redo Batman or whatever. I don't care. But it would also be nice if they just didn't focus on that and trying to make things all a series and, or anything else. Like, why not focus on trying to put in superheroes that we've never really seen, or people don't really talk about, or things that people don't really think about when they think of superheroes, but can actually be really cool and be adapted into a superhero movie. I personally am a girl who likes superhero movies. I think superhero movies are cool. They're just cool fun. I mean, I know they're cheesy at times, and I know that they can be either campy or they can, they have their little flaws to them. But for me, I think it would be nice to see more of Hollywood trying to probably focus in on trying to make things more have just one superhero movie focusing on this one superhero, and then another superhero movie that focuses on this superhero. I think actually it would be nice if they maybe have them maybe connect, but then don't focus in on the same person. Like, for example, you could have a superhero movie, and I guess I'm just using this for example because I am comic book ignorant. I don't read comic books. I don't know any of that stuff. I just watch the films, and for some reason I like the films, but I can never get into comics for some reason. But I guess it's just the way that they're presented with the pictures, and I don't know. It doesn't really interest me that much, personally. But it would be nice to kind of have like, hey, maybe have a Batman movie, and then sort of for the next one maybe focus in a little bit on Batman in the beginning, and then maybe in the end have that movie be more about Robin or somebody else. And I think it's just more variety. I think they could really try to make the superhero genre with a lot more variety, because they have a lot to work with. I mean, they got tons and tons of superheroes and tons of different things that they could do. And I just would like to see more of that, instead of just seeing the kind of the same thing. I mean, I don't mind if they reboot certain things, and I don't mind if they readapt Batman. But it would be nice to have, also a new superhero. I feel like I've seen the same superheroes over and over again. And I would just like to see more different superheroes, different villains too. I would like to see different villains as well. And I just think that Hollywood can go in so many different directions with it. And it doesn't seem like that they're really using that, and that they'd rather focus on redoing things over again, rather than focusing on maybe another superhero. which I think is understandable, and I think that's why some people maybe are a little bit frustrated, is that they want to see another superhero and they don't want to see the same thing. And I think that's why some people were critical about the Spider-Man movie. But for me, I don't mind if they reboot. But it would be nice if they could do something else on the side that would be, of a different superhero. I think that's what they need. I think it just needs some more variety in there. If they can make more variety in that genre, I think it would really help them, and it would really get people into seats, and it would really get people interested and involved. But again, I mean, I don't know. This is all just opinion based. This is all just my own personal opinion, and I just think it would be nice to see more things that are just more separate, and in doing so, providing more variety. I think that's really what I think would just be cool to see more of in movies nowadays, at least for me. But I think that's really all I can say about the superhero genre. I think it has a good setting and a good start to it, but I think they just need more variety in there. I mean, it's just, I don't mind if they do X-Men First Class, but make some other movie as well. I don't mind if they do an Avengers, but and I guess Avengers in itself is a little bit on the more rounds, and X-Men's a little bit on the more rounds of variety than, let's say, Spider-Man and Batman, where they just focus on Spider-Man and Batman. But I think it just needs a little bit more of, not necessarily having things all come together within like a group, or like establishing a series. I think it'd be nice to just have a separate movie and then have that just be that movie. Like, this is the movie of so-and-so, and the end. That's it. Instead of trying to go for a sequel or make a series, yada yada yada. I think it would just allow more variety to come in. Instead of just trying to focus on making series and making trilogies or whatnot. I think more individual type-esque pieces would be really refreshing, I think, for the superhero genre of movies. But I think that's really all I can say about that. Now, the next particular thing that would be, I think, be nice to see a little bit more of in Hollywood is their kind of biopic take on artists. And I don't mean just artists like painters, although they could be painters, but maybe musicians as well. I think it would be nice to see a movie about Beethoven, or a movie about Michelangelo or Vincent van Gogh, or even Bernini, because Bernini's life was full of drama. You could definitely make a movie about Bernini interesting, and also Vincent van Gogh, who had a lot of struggles in his life as well, and with Beethoven, who also had other struggles too. Again, not being able to hear, being deaf. I really don't know why Hollywood doesn't decide to do that, because it can really bring out a lot of people's performances, and it can bring out a lot of talent, I think, as far as people acting is concerned, because they're playing people who have certain and different struggles, and who have different kinds of personalities. And we know a lot of information about these people. I mean, we know a lot of information about Bernini's life. We know a lot of info about Vincent van Gogh. We know a lot of things about Beethoven too, even though there's still things that are still shrouded kind of in mystery. But it would be nice for Hollywood, I think, to do more of these kinds of, artsy type-ish movies where they do focus in on people making stuff and doing stuff that actually is very impacting, because they all these like various artists that I mentioned, they did stuff that really impacted the time period. Because usually when we do biopics, we really focus in on like political figures. We focus in on I guess you could say sometimes maybe on famous people, but not necessarily so much in on artists. And I think a lot of artists have been, from what you look at from their life, can be very interesting and can provide a very cool adaptation. Now, I know that there's a movie called Amadeus that focuses in a little bit on Mozart, but it doesn't really focus a lot on Mozart as a person. It more focuses on how someone perceives Mozart, which is interesting, but I mean, it would be nice to have these more biopic takes actually on the artist themselves and sort of the different things within their life. I think you could really get into some good acting. You could have a really good cinematography. You can have really good kinds of artsy stuff to it if you're trying to display an artist. I really don't know why people haven't really decided to focus in on that. I think that would actually be really cool, to focus on artists, and it doesn't have to be, you know, a really old artist. It can be someone fairly recent, like the Beatles, for example. Even though I've known there's been different films really on the Beatles, but there hasn't really been so much of I could say biopic take. I've never seen a sort of biographical kind of account of the band and how they kind of formed. Just little short stuff, but not really made into a serious motion picture. It would just be nice to see that, or maybe see other artists and bands as well. Like someone like Bob Marley would be cool too, I think. Or just focused in on these artists, because I think these artists in particular, ones that I mentioned, and artists in general, I think can provide a lot to people, and I think they can be very relatable in a certain way. In a similar way that we can relate to political figures, or we can relate to historical figures as well. I think if we did focus in more on artists, we could really bring out and shine a lot of interesting aspects, and I think a lot of these aspects would really appeal to the Academy, but probably to other people as well, because I don't think you have to make them so Academy-like. I think you can make it to the point where it can be enjoyable for other people as well. So yeah, I think if they focused in on artists and art and sort of did that kind of a thing, then we would really, I think it would really be cool. Not only artists, but also I think scientists would really be good to focus in on. Like Isaac Newton. Like, why isn't there a movie about Isaac Newton? I've never heard of a movie about Isaac Newton. I've never heard of a movie about Galileo. These people are just so profound to our history, and people that we take so much for granted for. And it would just be really nice if people really did focus in on these kinds of people, because they really do sort of hold this really strong impact upon us without them. I mean, I know there was a movie I think made recently about Darwin, but apparently that didn't really get so much praise. But Um, but I think it's something that they could focus on. I think it could really bring a lot of things to the table, um, and and bring a lot of like interesting concepts in particular with Galileo, um, and sort of his kind of life story. Um, you could also talk about Isaac Newton as well, who also had, he's an interesting character too, because he was kind of he had his own problems as well. Um, it's just these artists and these scientists. I think they have very interesting minds. And I think if we could expose those minds, we can really get interesting characters. And characters that maybe we haven't really necessarily seen before. Um, that would be really cool. I just think that would just be awesome. Why not have more artists and scientists? I think that would be just great, um, if we could bring that in, instead of focusing in on political figures, which I think Hollywood has done so many political figures, and then like political type-esque, situations. I think it'd be nice to maybe focus in a little bit more on artists and on scientists, um, and basically sort of their lives and the impacts of their work, and how that really shapes them as a character and as a person. That would be cool. I think that would just be awesome. More scientists and more artists. Another thing that I really want to happen, but it's probably not going to happen because it's kind of dead already, and it's sad, but it is. And that's 2D animation. Yeah, I really want to see more 2D, but I don't think it's going to happen. I really think Hollywood has just said to 2D animation pretty much. The latest ones, like I was thinking that the next one that they were gonna make, like the Snow Queen one, I thought, are they gonna do that in 2D animation? Are they gonna do that in and then they say no, we're gonna do it in 3D, and it's, I mean, I don't mind 3D. I like 3D too. I just think it'd be nice if they could bring back 2D a bit, because it's just so artsy, and I like how certain things look in 2D, better than I like them in 3D. Like sometimes in 3D I feel like it doesn't really, it looks so, I guess, plasticky at times, that it's hard for me to really kind of like it, compared to 2D, where I feel like it's a little bit, a little bit underplayed and not so much shoved into your face. But I do like some other aspects of 3D. Like, for example, a lot of 3D backgrounds are really, really cool. A lot of the emotions that they can bring out in 3D are really, really nice as well, and maybe don't come out as strongly as in 2D. But I still like certain things in 2D. Like, I really like the movements in 2D. I like the movements, the colors, just I guess you could say the sort of very artsy look that it has with the lines. I sometimes like these lines, like that they're highlighting things. Whereas in 3D, you don't really see like things that are really highlighted, because nothing needs to really be highlighted because it's 3D. But I think it would just be nice for people to just do a 2D picture once a year. I mean, I don't care how long it is. I mean, just if it's as short as the last Woody and the Pooh movie was, I would still be happy with that. But it would just be nice to see more 2D and have people go back sort of to this traditional style. I think it would actually really help animators though too, because if they go back in 2D, then it'll help them as they're trying to do 3D as well. Um, I think just once a year, just a side project, just something, and I would just be happy. I just really would like to see more 2D, instead of all of this 3D stuff. I like 3D. I think 3D has its potential and it has its good aspects to it, but I admire 2D as well, and I think there should be sort of this inclusion of 2D, because it has been so impacting upon 3D. I just think that it would really help, um, and I think it would just be nice to see a 2D film up on the screen again. Like, I mean, a lot of people were really happy that, like, Beauty and the Beast was back in theaters. They were happy when Lion King came out in theaters. You know, I think it would just really kind of capture a bit of the kind of nostalgia that certain people have, but also combining that with other films that are maybe more reflective on kids of today, which is basically 3D films. Again, I think it'd be nice to have this balance. I don't think we're going to establish a 2D, 3D balance at all. I think really 2D is gone. I don't think 2D is going to really come back, but if I could just get one film every year, one film that's just in 2D, I don't care who does it, just one film in 2D, I would be happy. I think it would just be nice, to just see 2D again, instead of just having this 3D come out every time. I think it would just be a little bit more refreshing for the animation genre, because again, animation should be, I think, of a medium of variety. And when you don't have this kind of variety, I think that's really where it falls flat for me. I think it's the same thing with the sort of the comic book idea, just give me variety. I think that's what I would really like to see. I don't know how anybody else feels out there, but I think that's really all I can say is what, as far as 2D animation is concerned. I just would like to see more of it. It's just not there anymore, and I don't think it's going to come back. I don't think we're going to have any 2D revolution. I just think it's going to slowly die, but it would just be nice to have one come out every year or every 2 years or just something. I just think anything from 2D would be nice. It would just be nice to have this variety of animation instead of just constantly relying on 3D. But I think that's really all I can say about that one. Now, the next one I wanted to talk about is dealing with sort of foreign culture and looking at things through a foreign perspective. I think Hollywood doesn't tend to do this. Rarely do I see a film that really takes things through a foreign perspective. The only time I've really seen things really being taken from a foreign perspective by actually an American, and who happens to be a film director, and he was Clint Eastwood did this, Letters to Iwo Jima, where he did focus on the Japanese, and he actually had the film in Japanese. I apologize. That was a spider again. There's like spiders roaming around my room, and they're just constantly bothering me. But what did I want to say? Basically, what I wanted to say is I think people should do more of what Clint Eastwood was doing with Letters to Iwo Jima. I think that they should try to look through things through a more foreign-like perspective and give us more of that take on things. I think it would be really nice to do that. And I know there's foreign films out there, and we can look at foreign films and how they're directed. But I don't really see a lot of foreign films that I really, really hear of or really, really remember. The only ones that I really have known are some German films. as well as some Asian productions as well. But it seems like it would be nice if we could get more of those things in there within I guess you could say American culture. I think it'd be nice if we could maybe show more films that are foreign and maybe do actually focus in on a foreign look by an American film director. Again, like sort of like what Clint Eastwood did with Letters to Iwo Jima. I think that would be cool. That I think would just be really nice to see things from this sort of angle. Because I usually see things that are really done through what I've already seen. And those things that I've already seen are sort of just reflected within our own culture, at least through within my culture. And I think it would be nice to see things that I'm not really used to, just something different. And I think that it would just allow more of a variety for Hollywood to work on if they did take a more foreign approach to maybe filmmaking. So that's that. Second to last one I wanted to talk about was fantasy. And what I mean by fantasy, I know fantasy has been played around really loosely, but I'm talking more Lord of the Rings, Narnia fantasy. I'd like to see more of that. And I don't think we really see that much of that at all, really, at least from now. Usually the world isn't so fully established, and we don't really get a sense of the world and how it operates. And then the movie doesn't really carry itself. But with films like Lord of the Rings, I think they really did try to establish this world. And I just think it'd be nice to see more films that do try to go into a different world. On a sort of fantasy-esque level. I think it'd be nice to see more films that go in this fantasy-like direction. The problem is I think that it just costs a lot of money to do so. And I think that's really the big problem with these kinds of fantasy-like movies, is that they do take place at other places. In particular, with Lord of the Rings, they're having to go to New Zealand in order to film it. I think if Hollywood could decide to, even if it's not based upon a book or a series, it would be nice to see them maybe even think of their own worlds, and try to do that and focus more in on fantasy. I think you can just do a lot with fantasy, and you can make it very interesting. And I mean, there have been fantasy films. It's just I haven't really seen these worlds being so fully established so much, to the point where you can kind of get and understand, how things work and how the world sort of operates. I just would like to see more of that. I haven't really seen a lot of it, and from what I've seen, I mean, Narnia didn't really impress me. I didn't really find Narnia to be all that interesting. Harry Potter I thought was really cool, the world, but I don't think the world was so fully established, because it only really focuses in on Hogwarts, and then a little bit of the outside area, but really not such an established world like something like Lord of the Rings. I think Lord of the Rings was probably the most established world out of all the fantasy type-esque movies that I've been known to exist. I think there should be more fantasy. I think that there should be some more fantasy, and to the extent of where there is this world, and this world is really established and really focused in on. Yes, Mom? Yeah, I'm gonna come soon. So I think that's really all I can say about that, just more worlds. Now, the last one I wanted to talk about was villains. Villains. I think Hollywood should focus, I think there's just been a lot of focusing on the heroes for the most part. And villains usually just play second fiddle. And for me, I think it would be nice to really focus in on a villain. And just really, really hammer down this kind of a villain. And just focus in more on this. And I don't really see this from movies nowadays. Nowadays, I see films that are just more based on the hero and try to focus in on the hero and sometimes that hero can be likable, other times that hero maybe not so. But it would be nice to see more movies that focus in on the villain. But just because you focus in on something doesn't necessarily mean you have to give everything away. I think it'd be nice if we could leave the villain shrouded a little bit in mystery, but I really like villains with motivations. I really like villains who have depth to them. I really like villains who are really engaging and interesting to watch. I think if Hollywood could focus in on making villains play the first part or playing the major role, I think that would be really cool. I don't really see that now. I really do see them focusing in on trying to make the villain be sort of the one shrouded in mystery. We get a sense of motivations at times, but we don't really, we don't put him as the center of attention. We just have him play, again, that second fiddle. And it would just be nice to, I think, see more of that. But I think that's really all I can say. I mean, any questions, comments, concerns, more than happy to answer them. Apologize for my mom interrupting, but I think that's really all I can say. I understand that maybe there's some other people who may feel that there's some other genres or other things that are maybe a little bit overlooked. I think sci-fi is probably another one that you could say is, maybe not done as much as it used to be. That could also be put into consideration, but for the most part, I don't really watch a lot of sci-fi, so I wouldn't necessarily know. But from what I can say here, these are the things that I think would be really cool to focus in on. But I think that's really all I can say. Any questions, comments, concerns, more than happy to answer them. And until next time, bye-bye, everybody.